Good evening, brothers. How you guys doing? Hope everybody is well tonight. Thanks for being here. As this part of the course, my OBS is picking up tonight. But if you do enjoy tonight's stream, at some point, please consider either hitting the subscribe button or hitting the like. And thank you to all the people that are here as normal. As always, on Sunday nights, we look at army lists submitted by the community. I am having a problem seeing the chat. Give me 1 second. No, I'm definitely having a problem seeing the chat. Okay. I don't know if I closed it, but here we go. Okay, cool. Knuckings here, Daniel, Steve, Jake, Joseph, Pana, Jamie, Rezio, Highland Phoenix, Zardox, Cyberwolf, Carrie, and Benno. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. Tonight's lists are submitted by the community, as always. We're looking at a list by Dan_R, who is a member, Highland Phoenix, and Antonio's Garden. So yeah, if you want to submit a list, you know how to do it. You would head over to the community tab of the Blood Angels Commander channel on YouTube, which I believe is just YouTube/Blood Angels Commander, like this, and then hit on the community tab. From there, you can just post your list into the latest community thread. Just whatever post is here, the newest one, put your list in there. The review time for members at the moment is 2 or 3 weeks, I'd guess, and the review time for non-members is about 16 to 20 weeks. So I guess if you're a non-member and you want help on lists right now, you probably are best coming over to Discord and asking some questions on there. Or you can hit this glorious join button here and become a channel member, and then I can review you in 2 or 3 weeks' time. That's kind of where we are at the moment. There's a lot of lists getting submitted just because, I guess, Armor of Contempt has possibly changed everything. Good evening, Dan. Good evening, DTM, Robert. Another James in the chat, and greetings to Canada as well. Cool. Carrie said he was having issues with Discord. I've been on Discord today. I don't know anything. Maybe you need to try and rejoin. You can leave servers in Discord, so maybe you need to try and rejoin and leave again. Or leave and rejoin, rather, the other way around. Alright, so we're going to start with Dan's list. Dan's kind of a newer member, so I haven't spoke to him too much, but let's see where we start with that. Why do I see no join button? If you're on an iOS device, you don't see a join button because I guess Apple cannot take their cut of YouTube revenue, so they don't let you do it. So you need to log on onto like a PC, and you can join and then become a member, and it'll link back to your YouTube account. Just you can't join via Apple devices. It's dumb. I'm an Apple user myself, but I mean, why Apple need to take their 30% or whatever cut they take on everything? That's Apple's prerogative, right? That's why Fortnite are fighting them in court, I guess. All right. Dan_R. Hi John, I'm sending you this list the right way. A new Patreon subscriber here. I've been following your channel for a few months now and I really like your content. I always hear people have been following for months and then it's their first time here. So if anyone's new, don't feel afraid to speak out. Everybody here is helpful, and if there is any questions on chat, direct them specifically at me with maybe like a tag that is a question, and I'll see if I can get to it as well. I haven't played in some tournaments yet. I mostly play with my brother and my cousin. However, I'm planning to start playing in some local places in the next few months. I wanted to get your thoughts on my recent list. Okay, and for some of these things, I may have to pull up Wikipedia because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. The thing that makes me want to pull it up is this Inquisitor. So we start off with an Agent of Imperium. We also have an Angel's Ascendant, we have 1 extra relic, and we're starting with 6 CP, which is borderline. I would never... Rule of thumb is try not to start games with less than 6 CP. That seems very, very tight, 6 CP. Alright, let me pull up Wikipedia because I haven't run an Inquisitor in a little while. Mental Interrogation, I think, is the psychic power where you gain command points if you roll 3d6 over the enemy's leadership. I'm like 90% sure of that. I should probably go to the Inquisition page. Mental Interrogation, yeah. So select enemy character within 12, invisible. Until the start of the psychic phase when resolving attack by the enemy model, subtract 1 to the hit roll. I forgot about that part. Roll 3d6 if it's over the enemy's leadership. You gain 1 command point. So, a good way to farm some CP here. He is just a regular Inquisitor for 60 points. Bolts, pistol, chainsword, He's the Ordo Xenos, which means that he gets... Again, I don't remember them, but I think Ordo Xenos means that he's going to reroll hits and wounds against Chaos... Oh, against units that are not Chaos, Imperium, or Unaligned. So basically against any Xenos models. The Inquisitor just has a 4-up save, 25mm base, 5 wounds. Okay, but he's also got a refracting field, doesn't he? So he's got 5-up invulnerable save. He knows 1 psychic power, and he can also attempt to deny 1. And he's got the Arbiter of Emperor's Will, which I think gives him a 2nd psychic power. Oh no, it gives him a Warlord trait, okay, and then this, Story Slower, I don't know what this is either. Lower? What is this? Historic Lower? Or maybe it's back on the Inquisition page. Lower. Okay, yeah, found it. It is, while this Warlord is in the battlefield, you roll 1d6 each time your opponent uses a stratagem, and a 5+ you gain 1 command point. Alright, I mean, this is a pretty interesting character, so that's something that the Space Marines really do not have, right? Like a way to gain CP generation per turn. Thanks for you guys telling me what it is in the chat, Benno, I do appreciate it. With the new data slate, what units are people running out to buy, says Andy. Any unit that has a 2+ save, Andy, statistically gets the most value out of the armor contempt change. So anything that has a 2-up save, like I guess that would be Sanguinary Guard, obviously not including Storm Shield, so Sanguinary Guard, Terminators, probably like Sicarians, super heavy tanks, Centurions, trying to think of anything else in the Space Marine. Land Raiders, I guess, statistically they get the most value if you have a 2-up save. Lightning Claw Vets look more tempting with Armor of Contempt. Lightning Claw Vets, I think, are going to take a little bit of a hit, Marine on Marine, but they are still good, I think. So yeah, 60 points. You're going to have to spend 1 CP to include him in your army, because you've given him the CP regeneration. But if you can hide this guy, to a reasonable extent, you could potentially farm 5 CP back, which is pretty nice for 60 points. You can also cast Mental Interrogation on enemy characters within 12 to get more CP back. I feel like this maybe... I mean, it makes sense to make him into like a super CP regeneration, but 12 inches is kind of like... He's going to be pretty vulnerable. You want him to survive, so you get the CP every turn. So I wonder if there would have been better psychic power that had like a bit more longer range. The one that I think about is the warding incantation from Ordo Malus, where you can give like a biker unit or an infantry unit a 5-up, but I guess that's maybe a little bit less valuable now. Because of Armor of Contempt. But yeah, I mean, Mental Interrogation is a great power. It's just, I guess, you're going to have to play pretty smart because you want the Psyker to live. So I actually kind of like the Psyker. He's got 2 ways to generate. He can potentially generate you 10 command points for 60 points in 1 CP. Which I think is pretty great. We can't gain CP, I think we can. The only way I think the Space Marines have to get CP back is the Chapter Master upgrade Rezio. And it's like, it's the beginning of every turn, you just roll a single 4-up. So on average, it's going to cost you 1 CP to take it, and it's going to get you 2.5 CP per game. So really, it's a relic that's going to generate 1.5 CP per game, which, in my opinion, is pretty crap. Whereas, like, this guy has potential to generate you 10 command points per game. I mean, it's going to be hard to mentally interrogate every turn, so let's say between 6 and 8 or something. Every time your opponent uses a stratagem, you gain 1 command point. So I would say probably on average, this guy will generate you 6 compared to the 1.5 you get from that Chapter Master upgrade. Okay. The generic Chapter Master Warlord trait, DTM. Yeah, I mean, it's crap. It's a 4-up once at the beginning of the battle round. gain a command point. I think it's kind of crap. Okay, we've got a captain on a bike, artisan of war, gifted foresight, adamantine mantle, infernal pistol, armors, and Domus thunderhammer. So basically, exact same as the chapter master I run. He just hasn't paid for the chapter master upgrade. I mean, the chapter master upgrade is 40 points. The Inquisitor can only generate 5 maximum. He has a psychic power that can also generate 1 per turn, right? Oh yeah, you're capped at +1 command point per turn. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. But yeah, so this guy has a pretty good potential to generate you 5 additional command points for the 1 command point it's going to cost you to use him. Yes. Okay, we get the Chaplain, Terminator Armor, who is Council of Kate and Icon of the Angel. So I guess this guy's going to probably arrive from Deep Strike with a 7-inch rerollable charge. It makes a lot of sense, right? I think the Inquisitor can take a relic with that strat too. I mean, possibly. I think you're right. Yeah, he can actually include a relic because that strat, the Arbiter of the Inquisitor. Do you know what? We're sitting here talking about Inquisitors, and I'm like, I don't have any Inquisitors. Well, I mean, I've got this guy, brand new from Forge World. I think he's still in the cellophane, so I guess the reflection is kicking his ass, but. Yeah, I mean, I've got Inquisitor Ermus Cartavolis, I think that's what his name is. Yeah, but I mean, so maybe that's why I need to run Inquisitor. God, why do they give them all so difficult names to pronounce? Erasmus Cartavolnus, I guess. Okay, but yeah, I think you're right. Arbiter of the Emperor's Will, I believe, lets him take a relic as well. Determine one warlord trait. If the model is not a named character or vehicle, you can give them 1 relic of the Inquisition as well. So yes, this guy, Dan, should be able to run a relic, which is actually pretty cool as well, right? So you could upgrade his blade. Was his default loadout? A bolt pistol and a chainsword. Well, I'm not really super. I guess you could upgrade his pistol. Oh, it's an infernal pistol only, so interesting. But yeah, I mean, I guess you can take a relic if you can figure out what one to take. Maybe you just want to take Black Shroud, so he's -1 to all wound rolls against him. Or yeah, you could take the mortal wound on a single hit with the digital weapons. You know what? If you're going to push him forward, Dan, I would take the one that makes him -1 to wound, just so, because he's toughness 3, right? So like that just makes him a little bit more difficult for the enemies to wound him. Okay, Chaplain. So that's our 3 HQ here, I guess, or that is 3 HQ so far. Assault Intercessors and 2 squads of Incursors, which are very standard. We see that in a lot of games. 2 Leviathan Dreadnoughts, both with Heavy Flamers, Grav Flux, and the Siege Drill. I've run these Leviathans with the Heavy Flamers. Actually, I was really lucky. I magnetized my Heavy Flamers before there was rules in 40k to switch them out. Because I always thought that they would be really cool if they ever gave them assault cannons. Well, they didn't give them assault cannons, but they did let you switch them out for the twin Volcons. And I think the Heavy Flamers on Leviathans are kind of unneeded, personally. I mean, not too many enemies are charging Leviathans with the siege drills. So, I mean, the Heavy Flamers are better for Overwatch, but I feel like the Volkite cannons on Leviathan, they're pretty decent. Like, it's heavy 4. I think they have a 30-inch range. Like, their range is pretty good. Maybe it's 20. Maybe it's 24 inches. No, I was right. It's 30 inches. Heavy 4, strength 5, 0, 2 damage. Each unmodified rolling level of 6 does a mortal. So I guess on average, every time you fire them, you're maybe going to get like a mortal wound. 30 inches. Against stuff that doesn't have a great save, it's a lot of 2 damage hits. One way you could play this, and one way that I play sometimes, if I was gonna, I have 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and typically if I run all 3, I put one with a Heavy Flamer, another 2 with the Gatling cannons, and I put the heavy flavor one furthest forward, right? So like if the enemy are going to come in and charge one of them, they're going to get hit with potentially better overwatch. So if you're going to run 2 Leviathans, maybe that would be the plan. One of them can do the double heavy flamers, one of them can do the twin Volkite Cavaliers, and just stick the one with the heavy flamers up front, right? So like if they do want to charge one, then you've got the overwatch. But when I played, I find a lot of the time, and it's the same with the, I assume you were putting the Meltagun on the siege drill, right? But quite often with a Leviathan, you're not in range to shoot the Meltagun, so you're not in range to shoot the heavy flamers. Leviathans aren't exactly fast. If they get profiled, their movement becomes pretty shit pretty quickly. Did they change that? I think Leviathans used to be 853 for their movement. I guess maybe they changed it to 864. I thought it was still 3 inches on the lowest bracket, to be honest. Okay. 2 Leviathan Dreadnoughts, a squad of Terminators with the Chain Fists, and the Sergeant would obviously have the Power Sword. We then have 2 squads of Vanguard Veterans, Lightning Claws, Storm Shields, Thunder Hammers, and a Sergeant with Quake Bolts and a Thunder Hammer. Cool. And then another squad pretty much identical. This time the Sergeant's got an Infernal Pistol and a Thunder Hammer, which is also cool. I like both of these. I think having some Storm Shields is going to be really important still for Blood Angels. I think that we'll see a lot of people spec into high AP stuff to try and deal with Marines. So if you've got a balance of a list that includes a bunch of Storm Shields, then you'll be in good stead. Good evening, Arkan. How you doing? We got 2 Landspeeder Tornadoes, and I kind of think Tornadoes are a little bit overcosted, and you've got the Whirlwind in there as well. On the Tornadoes, you're basically paying 20 points for an Assault Cannon, which seems like a lot. Like, I guess on a squad of Terminators, an Assault Cannon costs 10, right? Terminators. Yeah, Assault Cannon costs 10, so why are you paying, like, so, I mean, is it just a balance issue? Games Workshop haven't been great with some of the balance this edition. So a regular Landspeeder with a multi-melt is 70, is 6 wounds, is 6 toughness, it's got 3 up save, 18-inch move. The Tornado actually has the same 6 wounds, the same 6 toughness, the same 3 up save. It costs 90 points as opposed to the 70 of the regular Landspeeder, and you lose 2 inches of movement, and you also lose the data link telemetry, which gives you +1 to any targets that your Whirlwind shoots at that are within 18 inches of the Land Raider. Land Raider, why am I saying that? Landspeeder, sorry. So I think, like, I have a Tornado and it's benched. I'm just using the regular Landspeeder. I mean, the Assault Cannon's, like, underneath it, right? So, like, maybe you can, I don't know if you've got a plastic one or a metal one, maybe you can, like, pry it off. I don't think it brings that much. It's just very expensive, you know, like, essentially, on the data sheet there, they have the Assault Cannon for 5 points, but it's because this is 75 over 60 for the Landspeeder, and it makes no sense that this is 75. I mean, it moves less. It literally moves less, and it's more expensive. So I mean, if anything, the Tornado's just overcosted. It's one of the... Perfect, they're magnetized. Right, pull off the Assault Cannons off the Tornado. You'd be better off putting an Assault Cannon into the Terminator squad, honestly. If you pull off those 2 Assault Cannons, then you basically have 40 points to play with. 40 points to play with. Yeah, I mean, Assault Cannon or a Cyclone Missile Launcher into the Terminator squad, depending on what you think. I mean, you could also put in some... Hunter-Killer missiles onto your Leviathans, potentially. Or you could add another Terminator, I guess. 38 points. What else could you do with those points? I mean, I like the Assault Cannon on the Terminator squad. I ran that in a tournament, that exact Terminator squad with the Assault Cannon. Power sword onto the Inquisitor. Yeah, I mean, there's a good point. The Inquisitor could take a power sword, and then going back to what we talked about before is the Inquisitor could take that cool relic. Inquisitor. What was the relic's name? Relic of Inquisition. So what does a power sword cost on Inquisitor? Power sword. Surely it's just called power. Oh, melee weapons. 5 points on Inquisitor. And then the relic you could take is the Blade of the Ordo, +1 strength, -3d, 3 damage. When resolving attacks against the unit's quarry, is a flat 3 damage. Alright, pretty cool. Against all Xenos, his power sword becomes 3 damage. He's going to need to be in 12 inches. I suppose the other thing you could do is give him an Infernal Pistol and upgrade his Infernal Pistol, or... Oh, there's another power sword here, actually. In the fight phase, when the bearer is chosen to fight, for the first time roll a d6. On a 1, the bearer suffers a mortal wound, and this minute can't use his phase. When resolving attack made with this weapon, if the saving throw is failed, you can make 1 additional attack against the same unit. This attack cannot generate additional attacks. So that doesn't seem that great, the Tainted Blade, to be honest. I'll probably run the Blade of Ordo. Potentially. Power swords are looking better to deal with Marines and stuff like that as well. They certainly are. I have a few tweaks that you're considering based on AOC. Yeah, tell me your tweaks, Dan, and we'll talk a little bit more about this list. Those are for different orders, are they? Do the relics have? I mean, like I don't really run relics. No, you can run this. Why couldn't you run this? Oh, you sent me something on Discord. Okay. Why couldn't you run that, Highland Phoenix? I'm not understanding. Someone's saying you could run some infiltrators rather than... Oh, you did send me something different. Oh, shit. Okay. I don't know when it marked that as red, Dan. Balls. Alright, let's see what changed. So it's similar Inquisitor, but you gave him a hot shot lasgun. Okay. Captain and the Terminator barely changed. I guess you lost the combi weapon on the chaplain. You added a Sanguinary priest with a jump back. You actually ran some tactical squads. I don't like tactical squads. I think they're actually... I think they're generally really bad, even though they got armor of contempt. I think tactical squads are really bad. 2 Sanguinary Guard. I mean, I like the Sanguinary Guard. I like that you kept the Vanguard veterans. You put the Cyclone missile launcher into Terminator squad, and you swapped out the Land Speeder. Okay, yeah, I mean that's. I just think bolt guns are going to do nothing against Marines. And tactical Marines get like no attacks, or they get 1 attack as well. So I don't like that. I just don't like them. You've taken the Sanguinary Priest, which I'm in 2 minds about at the moment, right? Like, I guess it's just for getting an early Assault Doctor in here because he doesn't have Selfless Healer and stuff. But then you're pushing on 4 characters, which I also kind of don't like. Just because it makes Assassinate against you like a reasonably decent choice. You dropped a couple of Storm Shields for some more Infernal Pistols. I think that's totally fine. I think Vanguard Veterans probably can. We can probably lose a couple of Storm Shields out of Vanguard Veteran squad now because of Armor of Contempt. What's so good about Hotshot Lasgun? I have no idea. Hotshot Lasgun. Rapid Fire Strength 3 -2/1 damage. Okay. I mean, sure. But again, you could still include a relic here. Do you take tacticals for cheap objective holders? I would take company veterans. I mean, it's nice that tacticals have obsec, but I think you're just better spending the points in either taking assault intercessors or incursors. I think both of them just do a lot more damage than tacticals ever possibly could. And I'm very... I like my troops to do something. I don't just... Plus also, tacticals have no mobility. Incursors have so much more mobility. If I could fit... I have 3 squads of incursors. I just typically can't fit them into my list. But if I could, I would always run 3 squads of incursors. Occasionally, I can be on board with running infiltrators as well. But I just think incursors are better. Obviously, I haven't played incursors into new Marines yet, so I'm yet to see that. But I do think incursors are better. And obviously, they have transhuman and they have smokescreen, and they can just be much more aggressive. And if your incursors can ever lock up the enemy for a turn or something to let other units get in and make charges, I think that's really key. Yeah, and the incursors forward deploy and just get owned. Well, maybe they did get owned before. I would say they did get owned before of Armor Contempt, but I played them last week and I found them so much more resilient now. If you have incursors in cover, they're basically on a 2-up save ignoring 1 AP. They're very durable now. And yeah, I typically unleash rage on my incursors in turn 1 and try and get them to make some sort of charge and tie up some sort of enemy unit. I think that's actually pretty nice. If you can tie up the right enemy unit, it can actually be pretty big. Okay, 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard, 7s and 7s. I'm running pretty much the exact same thing. I'm running Terminators with Thunderhammers and Lightning Claws, but it's probably similar damage output to this. Just a little bit more resilience because I have the 4-up invulnerable saves. I'm also running Vanguard Veterans. Not quite as big a squad, but I am running them. I'm running a Landspeeder, I'm running a Whirlwind. I'm running Contemptor rather than Leviathan. 2 Incursors and an Assault Intercessor, and then the Captain... What was my other HQ picks? The Sanguinary Ancient and... Oh, Mephiston, right, yeah, okay. But, I guess... So the Chaplain is more about arriving with a Deep Strike squad, which is probably going to be the Terminator squad. Okay, it makes sense. I like it. CP starting on 7 still feels borderline a little bit too low. I guess there's no denies. The main thing I don't like here is the tacticals. I think the only way you can probably get rid of the tacticals is if you swap out the Leviathan for a relic Contemptor. I think the Leviathan has more value. It's obviously more difficult to kill, got a better save. But if you ask me, would I run 2 tactical squads in Leviathan or 2 Incursor squads and a Relic Contemptor? I would lean towards the Relic Contemptor because I hate tacticals. 1 attack just means that they're never gonna. 1 attack and bolt guns are never gonna kill anything. Good evening, Lagmeister. The review time for members is just 2 or 3 weeks. Non-members is 20 weeks. But I see you remember, so you're all good. You got a deny from the Inquisitor. Alright, yeah, you got a deny from them. Good point. Well made. And you've got potentially the CP regen from the Inquisitor as well. So that's something too. Tacticals don't have the same defensive profile, right? They don't have access to smokescreen, they don't have access to transhuman, and both of these things played correctly can basically win games, right? Because if you have 1 obsec unit surviving on an objective versus 10 enemy units, that wins you a game, right? So I wouldn't ever include tacticals in a list unless you do not have any other models. I just have no motivation to bring them. I think tacticals need to be 15 points per model. I think at 18 points they're just way too expensive. They literally don't do any damage. Okay, let me think about scoring this. So, I mean, you've got three obsec troop choices, so I mean, I'll give you an 8.5 for it, but like, I hate the tacticals. I just hate them. I'm trying to think. We did a tier list a while ago, right? I have a picture of the tier list. I did actually get the pictures of the tier list not too long ago for Tony. Tier list. Maybe I've got it on my tier list. Tier maker. And my account. Blood Angels troops. Yeah, I've got it here. Alright, let's see. Yeah, I mean, we literally put tacticals bottom. Every other troop choice is better than them, even the overcosted heavy intercessors. Yeah. Bring tacticals if you want. I just think you're hindering yourself from a competitive standpoint. I don't think... I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think we've seen a single competitive a tournament winning list this edition that includes tactical marines. If there is one, link it to me, but I'm like 90% sure there's not. There's definitely not been a Blood Angel one that won a tournament with tactical marines. Okay, anti-infantry, you've got like, what, 14 Angelus bolters. You've got the Volkites on this list as well. Alright, so that gives you a little bit of firepower. You've also got some Terminators. You got the Whirlwind, but the Whirlwind's not really going to do much damage now. So I guess anti-infantry horde is probably about 7.5. 3 damage weapons. You have the Captain on the Bike running 2. The Leviathan running 2. The Terminator's running 4, and the Cyclone missile launcher, so that gives you a total of... Reach up at 9, and then you've got, what, 2 Thunderhammers, 2 Infernal Pistols, another Thunderhammer, so 14 multi-multi here, so 15 3 damage or more weapons, which is good. I've been saying recently we need 15 3 damage or more weapons. I think you really do need that many if you're going to come up against -1 damage enemies. And I'm going to play Death Guard with the new rules tomorrow night, and they're all -1 damage. So that's something to consider. DTM asks, how are you guys feeling about Plasma Inceptors? The AP -4 isn't total overkill anymore, and I've been seeing some big termy bricks for them to trigger blast against. Yeah, I mean, my problem with Plasma Inceptors is firing on them high power is so risky, DTM. So I don't... If they made Inceptors that... If they made them that you just took a mortal wound on a roll of 1, I would run them, I think. But the fact they just outright kill their model, I'm not gonna... I don't like them because 60 points is a crazy amount of models to lose for a roll of 1, right? Okay. So anti-monster vehicle, we also have the 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard, the Terminators, the Vets, the Leviathan. Yeah, all these things will do quite a bit of damage, I guess. So I'm going to say like a 9.5. Mobility-wise, well, the tacticals aren't mobile, which is potentially a little bit of a problem. And then it's really just the Leviathan that's not mobile. Terminators obviously can deep strike, and you do have the Teleport Homer in there as well, so you can move them around, I guess, if you need to. So we'll say mobility is like an 8. We've got potential to turn off Overwatch. We've got potential to make the enemy fight last. We've got a single deny. We do have units for actions. Obviously, there's a bunch of units that can do actions in there. We've got the 15 3 damage weapons. We've got 7 CP, which is fine. We do not have much protection against mortals, but I guess Sanguinary Priest provides a little bit of protection against mortals. So yeah, like a 9 here. So I mean, it's a good scoring list, Dan. But in my experience, if I was going to take this to a tournament, I think you just have to get rid of the tactical marines. And I think you need to be super aware that you have 4 characters, so you need to expect the enemy to assassinate into you potentially. So you need to make sure that your Inquisitor, because he's going to be the easiest kill for the enemy. And I guess the Priest is a bit of an easy kill as well if the enemy ever manages to engage on him. So in a tournament setting, you just need to be super careful where you're placing these guys and make sure they're like lookout third and protected. And I guess if we do see the rise of eliminators in the meta, then it might be a problem. On all Marines, plasma should be a mortal wound. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Robert. We were asking this question the other night in DTM. You're super knowledgeable. Do any other factions have rules where, like, on a roll of 1, it just outright kills the model? Or for all the other factions, is it like a roll of 1 is a mortal wound, right? Plasma Scepter is a lot better if you've captain with a jump pack. Yeah, I mean they are a lot better, but you can still lose. How many times do you re-roll a 1 into a 1? It happens. Did I get your update, Highland Phoenix? I did indeed. Yes. Mephiston killing himself with the plasma is hilarious. I mean, Mephiston's a good example, right? Mephiston should be able to shoot on high power because he has that feel no pain. So if he has to take the mortal wound, he could potentially save it. It's kind of silly. Yeah, Karn the Betrayer can only fire his gun on high power. Yep. Another reason that the plasma rule is dated. It's a 1 out of 36 chance you get a double 1. Yeah, and a 3-man squad of Plasma Inceptors Turkey Blaster gets 18 shots. So every second turn when you fire them, you kill your own model for 60 points. That's horrific. I mean, if you don't have rerolls, if you roll 18 dice, you know, like if you bring in your squad of Plasma Inceptors, tell me this is clever, right? You bring in your squad of Plasma Inceptors, they're all assault 3, so it's 3 times 6, 18 shots. If you roll 18 hits, the average hit roll is 1.66, or the average number of 1s is that. So basically, you're saying every time you have a squad of Plasma Inceptors and you overcharge them, each model kills itself on average, because you get 6 shots per model. Like, it's just, I mean, it's stupid. I guess that's why I've always run attack bikes this edition and never really run Plasma Inceptors. Roberts rolled a double 1 on Mephisto before and killed him. Yeah, it's so sad that we can't shoot Mephisto's pistol on high power. People always call me out. They're like, you chicken. And I'm like, you literally can't shoot on high power. It's so stupid. Alright, so yeah, most of this list is fine. I think I want you to play the Tactical Marines a couple of times and see if you think they provide value for you. And watch some of my games where I go aggressive with Incursors. And like see what Incursors can actually bring. Compared to like a squad of Tactical Marines, because I mean I used Incursors last week against Tau to actually completely annihilate his forward deploying unit and tie up one of his characters, and then I smokescreened one of them and made him waste like half his army trying to kill a squad of Incursors that were on his objective. So yeah, I think Incursors are. I think they're good. I think they're really good. I think they're even better. Like, yes, before they died a bit, but now I think they're even better with Armor of Contempt. I do also want to just say that sometimes if you run a single Dreadnought, he can become a bit of a bullet magnet. There is some people that seem to think that 2 Dreadnoughts will always work a lot better than 1, and I'm kind of that camp. But I think if you're going to go 2 Dreadnoughts, you kind of have to like sacrifice quite a lot of one of your jump units. So it's a tough one. Or you maybe have to sacrifice Sanguinary Priest. I don't typically run the Sanguinary Priest. I'm not going to be running the Sanguinary Priest tomorrow. I feel like our units all got a significant buff to survivability. I guess we'll see tomorrow when I play against Death Guard just how significant it is. But the thing I want to say is, like, if our units all got like a lot more survivable, does that in some ways lessen the value of the priest, or does it make the priest more valuable? And I'm gonna ask that in the community tab. Because I really can't decide, like, is the priest more or less valuable if our units are all more survivable? Some people think he's more, some people think he's less. My feeling is I think he's going to be less. Cyberwolf says my single Dreadnought got shot off the board against a game against Guard. You know, my single Dreadnought got shot off the board last week against Tau's railgun. I mean, it does happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. I guess taking one Dreadnought is a little bit risky. I mean, you could always reserve if you have one Dreadnought, but like a Leviathan's going to cost a shitload of points to reserve. Have you thought about Relic Terminators? Yeah, I love Relic Terminators. I think that they're great with Lightning Claws. I'm probably going to buy a squad of Relic Terminators in the next 6 months. I don't own any of them. From Goonhammer, 2 is 1 and 3 is 2 in a 40k competitive list. What do you mean 2 is 1? Oh, right, in terms of like Dreadnoughts, yeah? It's about the Chalice and the early Assault Doctrine more. That's why people think the Priest is valuable. I was thinking more in terms of like the reviving part of the Priest or the healing part of the Priest. Do people think that part is more or less? What about one Lightning Claw and one Chain Fist? I mean, I think you could probably do a bit of a mix of the squad, like a few Lightning Claws and like a couple of Chain Fists on Relic Terminators. It'd be very, very well costed, and I think it would be a pretty good straw. Whenever I run a single Dread, it dies as soon as it's visible. Yeah, I mean that can happen as well. Part of me personally is actually thinking of like going away from Dreadnoughts completely. I might even go back to attack bikes. I'm probably going to try attack bikes in the next few weeks, actually. It's a pity that I made this weekend's list blind, because do you know what? Maybe I should have changed. Maybe I should have run the attack bikes. I'm sure I'll get back to running attack bikes. I'm playing Tau the week after, so maybe I'll run attack bikes against Tau. Yeah, maybe I'll drop the Dreadnought and just run the attack bikes, just to see what attack bikes do with Armor of Contempt. Crobalt says he takes the so a lot of people take the Sanguinary Priest for the early Assault Doctor. Yeah, I mean that's fair enough if you think that you need Assault Doctor in early. I mean that's why some people take it for sure. Okay. Primaris Chaplain on a bike then. This is Highland Phoenix's list. Sorry, list number 2 for today. Primaris Chaplain on a bike. Upgraded with Master of Sanctity, Gift of Foresight and Artisan of War, Benediction of Fury and Adamantium Mantle. Okay, Canticle of Hate, Litany of Faith, Litany of Hate. I'm thinking about this for a second. So he's got the 4 damage weapon, he's got the 5-up shrug, he's got the Gift of Foresight. He doesn't have armor and Indomitus, but he does ignore -1 AP, so he will be a little bit stronger now. We also have a Librarian with an Axe, Infernal Pistol, and Jump Pack, and he is running Rites of War, Icon of the Angel, Null Zone, and Veil of Time. Which makes me think you're putting a lot of eggs in the basket of the Null Zone, Highland Phoenix, and like, I don't think you can. I mean, I ran a Librarian at 2 tournaments. One tournament I didn't go Chief Librarian, and one tournament I did go Chief Librarian, and I felt a lot more confident about my psychic abilities with the Chief Librarian. I think it's important. If you want to rely on Null Zone, I think you need the +1 to cast. I really do. Because obviously, it helps not only in casting it successfully, but also makes it harder for the opponent to not deny it, right? Because you've got +1. I thought you were all off attack bikes because of the change of engagement on fronts. Yeah, I think I would be running attack bikes as a damaging unit, DTM. Just basically, it's 3 very mobile multi-meltas that can easily get within half range. and they don't suffer the same problems that like a Dreadnought does if you come up against Tau, where they can just, railgun one Dreadnought off the table. Well, if you railgun one attack bike off the table, I'm not really that worried. It was only 60 points, whereas when you railgun like a 200-point Dreadnought off the table, it effing hurts, for a lack of a better word, right? Nothing to put this chaplain on a 2+ seems like a missed opportunity. Yeah, I mean, he's gone for 4 damage over the survivability, which I think is a valid build. The Null Zone here, I don't like. I feel like Null Zone's not reliable without Chief Librarian, and in doing so you get a 3rd power, which is also cool. We get think of the Sanguinary Priest, who is the Selfless Healer in the Teeth of Terra, and we actually seen this Sanguinary Priest loadout win some tournaments, so I guess that's fine, right? It's pretty standard. It's probably the strongest way you can build a Sanguinary Priest. We know he doesn't survive in combat, so you may as well just give him 8 attacks on a 2+ and the 2 damage. We then have 7 Sanguinary Guard, all axes and bolt guns, and I think you should probably make mixing squads now, because if you run into Marines, swords are going to be like way better against Marines. Axes are good against a lot of Xenos stuff like Drukhari, like Custodes, I guess they're not Xenos, but you know what I mean, and Orcs, right? So I think the best way to run Sanguinary Guard right now is a mix of swords and axes. Vanguard Veterans, Lightning Claws on Storm Shield, Infernal Pistol, and Thunderhammer, which is sort of a standard solid Vanguard Veteran squad. Relic Terminators with Stormbolter, 3 Chainfists, and 2 Lightning Claws, literally what I talked about 20 minutes ago, maybe not even 20 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. And the Quake Bolts on those relics as well, so that can potentially give them +2 if you pay Fury of the First once they make the charge. Good evening, Kevin. How you doing? Highland might mix in some swords now. Yeah, I think that is the right call. We got the 5 Death Company, 3 Thunderhammers, 2 Chainswords, and Bolt Pistols. I like this Death Company. If I was going to run one, this is pretty much what I was thinking of aiming for, about 160 points. I don't want my Death Company to be a giant squad or a giant cost, and this seems to keep it sort of balanced. Some people like to run it with 5 Thunderhammers, but it's getting up to like 190 points. At that point, I'd rather just take Terminators. Scout squads, Dual Infernal Pistols, and Camel Cloak on the Sergeant, and Combat Knife and Bolt Pistols on the others, so I think this is like an interesting choice, and I knew that there was going to be a Landspeeder Storm when I saw this. So we got the Landspeeder Storm, who can outflank with a squad of scouts in it. I guess we'll have to hear how we do. Assault Intercessors and 2 Incursor squads, kind of standard loadout here. Attack Bike with Landspeeder with multi-metalist. 3 attack bikes with multi-metalist, nice. Basically what I was thinking of going back to, maybe. And then the Whirlwind. Okay, let me grab a couple of answers from chat. If he's not null zoning, he's writing and iconing. I had to swap Psychic Mastery for Selfless Healer post AOC. I need to try it out. Okay. Yeah, okay, so you're going to basically be doing actions with Psyker. Best unit to go against Custodes, what would you guys say? Probably Sanguinary Guard will be pretty good into a lot of their stuff, because Custodes can turn off your rerolls, and that can be difficult to deal with. However, 3 damage weapons and 1 damage weapons, like Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws and Thunderhammers, are also very good into Custodes Dreadnoughts, because their Dreadnoughts are -1 damage. They also get 6-up Shrug. So I don't know if there's a specific unit that is quote-unquote the best against Custodes, but just the standard stuff that we run is good. I think the trick with Custodes is more about like focusing units down, because every unit in Custodes is so durable. So in like a game against, like, say, like Orcs, where you're making 2 or 3 charges into different units, trying to wipe out multiple units at once, with Custodes it's almost sometimes worth going overkill and having like 2 of your strongest units charge 1 unit just to make sure that you take that unit out, because sometimes Custodes units can linger around and or linger You know, I lost a game against Andrew's Custode, and he had like one Dreadnought on 1 wound, and he had another Dreadnought on 2 wounds, and then he had some bikes on like 1 wound, and it can lose the game against Custodes if you can't finish their units off, I guess. DTM says, is it worth running a priest in a list without a chapter master? Wouldn't full rerolls to hit be as much of a damage boost as putting something into Assault Doctrine with a better all-round profile? Probably. Because I suppose it depends on the number of attacks, right? Because Assault Doctrine just gives 1 attack per model. And there is a way to get into Assault Doctrine without the Priest, right? It just costs 2 CP rather than essentially kind of free with the Priest. But Chapter Master rerolls do actually provide like a lot of increased DPS. On 4s to hit, it's like a 50% increase in damage. On 3s to hit, I believe it's like a 22% increase on damage, and then on 2s to hit, it's like 15%. So yeah, I mean, if you have a unit that's like 5 or 6 guys, Chapter Master rerolls is probably just as valuable, if not more valuable, than Assault Doctrine. I guess in terms of hits, Assault Doctrine comes with additional AP, so I guess you've got to factor that in, which makes it super difficult to work out, right? Rerolls can easily be stripped. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're running into an army that has the potential to strip rerolls, you have to be wise, right? Fight Last is nice against Custodes. Yeah, Fight Last is definitely nice against Custodes as well. I mean, Redemptor Dreadnoughts with the change. Are Redemptor's going to get a save against those Salvo launchers now? Because before they didn't. So I guess they would get a save now. It'd probably just be a save on a 6. But at least it's a save, right? Death Guard can strip rerolls. Custodes can strip them. And yeah, Harley's as well, obviously. Is anyone else able to strip rerolls? Sure, there's another chapter. Or another faction, rather. This Custode strat is once per game now, which is good. Yeah, you can bait that out. Mortarion, I guess it depends if we see Mortarion coming back a lot, right? Because his reroll strip is pretty nasty. But I mean, Assault Doctrine isn't going to help you kill Mortarion. Null Zone is arguably what you need to kill Mortarion. I just don't know if I feel like I can include Null Zone for one enemy model, or just... Yeah, I just moved... I think the reason I don't like Null Zone anymore is that you have to sacrifice your character to do Null Zone typically, and that's just not how I play. Tyranids can. Maybe Tau can as well? Okay. Yeah, it's a Warlord trait that Mortarion uses, isn't it? So other Death Guard can use it, or strip it as well. So what do I like in this list, then? The Chaplain doing 4 damage is cool. The Librarian with Null Zone, Rites of War, and Icon and Angel is decent. Null Zone feels a little bit unreliable. Is the Chief Apothecary going to be important here over Null Zone? With the new rules? I mean, that's really my question. You know, like, you've spent 35 points to get Chief Apothecary. You need to let me know if it feels like Chief Apothecary is worth it now. Because I haven't run Chief Apothecary in like since September last year, and I don't feel like I really need it or miss it. Whereas I did run Null Zone a lot with a Psychic Mastery Librarian, like a ton of times. Probably ran it like 20 or 30 times, and the amount of times that like I just sneaked a cast off that needed, and then you get another power as well. So another power could be very useful, like Mighty Heroes. Give your Chaplain an extra attack and extra strength. I think it gives 1 toughness as well, actually, yeah. I think it was Steel Rain was saying, like, you can always Mighty Heroes yourself on the Librarian to get, more attacks and more strength and stuff like that. One Sanguinary Guard, one Death Company, one Vanguard Veterans. It kind of gives you an all-round squad, and then the Terminators as well. The Storm and the Scouts are kind of like an edge play to try and score points, I assume, with like Relentless Assault. I've thought about this, but I've not really tried it myself. It's one of those ones where, like, on some maps, it might actually provide a lot of value, but against some enemies that are going to screen you out, it's probably going to provide quite not that much value. The troop choices are good. The regular land speeder, you know, I like that. The Whirlwind, I obviously like. The 3 attack bites with multi-metals, I actually think is decent as well. Post AOC, I managed to keep 1 speeder in to do daylight telemetry, and I've squeezed in a 3 attack bites again. I've justified this by bringing back the selfless healer, but it's like, oh right, so you wanna revive some attack bikes. I see. I guess I was thinking of running attack bikes without any healer. Period. I'd probably run them in like a 3 and a 2 because if you can take 3 fast attack, I think you can take 3 fast attack. I always get confused by that because typically I never used to run that many fast attack. But I mean, resing attack bikes is good when it works, but like I guess it depends on if it's going to work for you, then it's going to work. But if it doesn't, you have to worry about. And I guess that's a good point, because before what would happen, right? Like, if you're playing against Death Guard and they had 3 Plagueburst crawlers, they'd just mortar the shit out of the attack bikes and you'd lose them all before the battle started. They could only save on 5s against those, against the mortars, and each mortar does like 2 damage, and the mortars wound super reliably. So, yeah, I wanna know how attack bikes get on. I think there may be some validity in moving back to attack bikes over Dreadnoughts. I just don't know if they need the priest, and I guess I'll know more each time I play. I'm probably gonna run attack bikes next week into Tau and see how that goes. Rather take our librarian or a chaplain. I mean, a lot of people love the chaplain on the bike. I think he's a very good character. I'm just not in love with him. I prefer running a librarian over a chaplain. Jake Dale, become a Battle Brother member. Thank you so much. That's actually going to hit me my membership goal for April, Jake. I really do appreciate that. I guess if you haven't submitted a list and you want to submit one, you are now in the members queue. So, and also make sure you join up on our Discord as well. You get access to our members only room. But thank you so much for becoming a member. You are a legend. Alright, I think I answered a lot of questions. Astaroth. I still think Astaroth's maybe like just slightly too expensive. I know we got a tiny bit more survivable. I just think 150 points for him. I mean, he costs the same as the chaplain on the bike, right? And the chaplain on the bike arguably does everything Astaroth can do a little better, maybe. I think the main thing for me is the chaplain on the bike is going to be like toughness 5, 7 wounds. Astaroth is like toughness 4, 5 wounds. So if you run math on that, toughness 4 or 5 wounds, yeah, it's like there's a lot of extra survivability in there on that bike captain, or bike chaplain rather. And I prefer to have my characters linger around and survive. That's how I win a lot of games. Characters that can stay alive for the whole game, providing their buffs, killing enemy in close combat, I think is more important than a missile. I guess Astaroth's a missile. And yeah, you're right, he does have massive doom, but yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of discussion around our characters, right? Everybody's got their favourites and everybody's running something different. How can you join Discord? There should be a link in the video description. If there's not, ping me and we'll get someone to put it into the chat for you. Do you know what? I can actually do polls now. Okay. Here you go then. We'll ask the community. Hopefully that'll work. Right. What would I change if this was me? Yeah, I mean, the Landspeeder Storm in the Scout Squad for like 137 points, something like that. I guess they're like a scoring squad, so I guess you would need to be you almost need to be scoring points with them every game because they're not really killing much. I guess you've got dual infernal pistols here, so you could argue they can do a bit of damage, but it's a weird unit. They're definitely a scoring unit. But 137 points of scoring feels like a lot to me. You know, like I was considering taking Voidsman at Arms. Like a 6-man squad for 48 points, and like I'm struggling to fit in a Voidsman at Arm unit at 48 points into my list. I think the Death Company here are good. Obviously, they can Forlorn Fury. I think the Relic Terminators, the Vanguard Vets, the Sanguinary are all good. Just having one more squad of solid combat to me feels maybe a little bit better than a scoring unit. Thank you for subscribing. I do really appreciate it. John. Alright, let's talk about 3 damage weapons. So we've got 4 multi-meltas here. We then have dual infernal pistols, so I guess we can class that as 2. It feels a little bit strange having dual infernal pistols on a Scout Sergeant. 3 Thunderhammers here, that gives us 9. 3 more Chain Fists, that gives us 12. Infernal Pistol Thunderhammer here, that gives us 14. And then Infernal Pistol on the Librarian. He also has a Force Axe, so that's another D3, so that's 16. And then the Primaris Chaplain on the bike has his 4 damage Benediction of Fury. So potentially that gives us 17 3 damage or more weapons, which I like. That's certainly a good number of 3 damage or more weapons. We also have a good spread of 2 damage weapons in this list. We also have some scoring units in those Landspeeder Storms. So let's talk about a little bit of scoring on OBSEC. We're going for like 8.5 because we've got the 3 troop choices, but we also have Rites of War on this Librarian. Rites of War, usually I increase this to like a 9.5. So, anti-horde, what we got that's going to blow up hordes? Well, we've got like some... I was going to say Chain Fists. No, we've got some Storm Bolters. We've got some Angelus Bolters. I guess the Tat Bikes have twin bolt guns. The Whirlwind has a tiny bit of indirect fire that could do a little bit of damage. I guess the Chaplain on a bike, I keep wanting to call him Chapter Master, sorry, has a twin bolt rifle in his gun on his bike, so maybe like a 7.5. 3 damage with mortal wound potential with Fury, and well, it's 4 damage, I guess, right? And you've got rights. Yeah, I'm aware you've got rights. Cerberus launcher. Okay. You want an extra half point on anti-infantry fire for a fucking Cerberus launcher? Are you serious? It's like strength 4 d6 shots. Let me have a look. Yeah, okay. On average, what are you getting? Like, you're getting 2 hits with a heavy bolter and like 2 hits with a strength 4 0 AP. I mean, you could have. We've never really done this before, but you could have a quarter of a point. Not giving you half a point for a Cerberus launcher and a heavy bolter. You can have a quarter of a point. We don't normally do that. Special circumstances since you've been a subscriber for so long. I do appreciate you, Highland Phoenix. Okay, anti-monster infantry. We already said we get 17 3 damage or more weapons, which is generally very good. I think... I mean, we've got the early assault doctrine. We've got the null zone. We've got a good mix, actually, here, where, like, a bunch are multi-meltas and a bunch are melee. I kind of like that. I really do think there's going to be place in the meta for attack bikes again. Be careful, you'll lose your captain to Cerberus launcher. I will not lose my captain to certain Cerberus launcher. And yeah, I mean, he's got 2 bolt pistols on the Death Company. They are never killing anything. I find that like all the bolter fire is pretty. In the current edition, it's pretty crappy. That's why. Yeah, that's why. I really thought like when they did Space Marine 2.0, like heavy bolt pistols should really maybe actually be like pistol 2. Because like if you want them to do any damage, they're never going to do any damage at pistol 1 and stuff like that. And it's strange that AdMech got all those rules where like everything like AdMech have got guys that are like pistol 5. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. How come my Space Marines have pistol 1, you know? Okay, and I mean, I'm on the verge of giving you 10 points for anti-monster in that you've got 17 3 damage weapons and you've got null zone. Do you know what? We'll balance it out with this quarter point here. We'll tell you you get 9.75 there. I was very tempted to give you a 10. I don't often give 10 in any category. Maybe if this was the Chief Librarian and you could have done the more reliable null zone, you could have had a 10. So we'll say that. Mobility. I mean, nothing's really unmobile, right? Or immobile. It's the only thing you've got here are your incursors and your assault intercessors. Incursors have access to guerrilla tactics, which I think is a very, very valuable stratagem. Gives them a lot of extra mobility that they might not need, and it also helps you score a lot of points that maybe you can't do with other troop choices. So I think I'm going to give you a 9 for mobility. And then specializations. Let's have a think. We do have the whirlwind, so Overwatch, fight last. We're good. Librarian having 1 deny is okay. Units for actions. I guess you've got the extra scout squad that can do actions as well as the 2 troop choices. I think the scouts probably will be doing actions on this list. We've got the 17 3 damage weapons. I didn't read how many CP you start with. Starting CP is 6, which is borderline too low. This is kind of as low as you want to go. And then I guess you've got the Sanguinary Priest with the Chief Apothecary. It isn't great protection against mortals, but I guess he can do some reviving. So, yeah, let's say like it's really just CP and denies. I think it's a 9. I think this is actually one of the higher lists that we've seen. In terms of raw scoring, I think it's a very high scoring list. Good evening, Jimmy. How you doing? Cerberus launcher might do 1 damage a game if it's lucky. Yeah, and heavy bolters are actually going to be a lot crapper against Marines now. That's something that I guess no one's really talked about, right? Heavy bolters are just going to basically be like, yeah, they do 2 damage, but they're not going to be killing Marines, period, at all, I feel like. Reziel says, interesting note that chainswords and paired combat blades took a hit. They obviously did take a hit against anything that has armor of contempt as well. So, both those things, chainswords, paired combat blades, heavy bolters, all these things took quite a bit of a hit. It's not like people were loading up on heavy bolters before. I guess that's true, people weren't, but most Space Marines lists usually had a heavy bolter or 2 flying around there, right? If you bring... I'm trying to think what even has heavy bolters on it, but I often find I've got some heavy bolters here or there, I feel like. I feel like I have a heavy bolters, but now that we mention it, I can't think what would be a heavy bolter. I just don't think they're going to be very good. Jim says my poor rapier cannon. Yeah, I mean they were already bad. Thunderfire cannons, indirect fire. So I'm going to play Death Guard tomorrow, and they're going to run 3 Plagueburst crawlers. I really want to see how Plagueburst crawler indirect fire will do now, because before I was basically just taking those hits at -2. Now I'll take them at just -1 because of Armor of Contempt, and if you can't see me, I'll take them at AP 0. So I think it'll be really interesting to see if Plagueburst crawlers actually do any damage now. I may be on a Landspeeder Storm or something that can't swap out as heavy bolter, but by and large is normally upgradable to some better weapon, I guess. And yeah, remember, not everything is in power armor. Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky part of this Armor of Contempt upgrade, right? Like, because there's so much stuff that is unaffected, then obviously incursors and stuff are still good, and there is some stuff that's Bladeguard have heavy bolters. They've got heavy bolt pistols. Yeah, I'm playing Colin. Dan says my main meta is 95%. So people think the healing part is the vote in channel says 28 people think the healing part is actually a lot more valuable now. That's interesting, because I actually think it's worse. But I mean, I've only played one game, and I felt like my units weren't really dying as much. So I thought, like, well, healing's not going to be as important if my units aren't dying as much. Basically, the only army I fight that doesn't get EOC is Custodes, says Jake. Okay. Then that's going to be tricky. I mean, it is tricky in general, but I mean, I don't think it changes our best troop choice because we're limited, you know? Like, our troops typically have a -1 AP weapon in close combat, so that's just going to be that. We're going to... With troops into Marines, I guess we're either trying to put them in Assault Doctrine early, or we're waiting on turn 3 to do the majority of our damage. So Nucking thinks it was worse. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel that not enough dies? Heavy bolters will still kill Marines, they just have a 2 in 6 chance versus a 3-up save. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a 1 in 3 chance as well, right? I actually think heavy intercessors are not... I think heavy intercessors got worse. I mean, because of the points cost of the heavy intercessors being that much more expensive, I kind of... Yeah, the Gravis units are nice now and they survive a bit, but like, I honestly think incursors, the mobility... We often talk about the strength of Blood Angels is our mobility, right? So incursors and infiltrators to an extent are the two most mobile troops that we have. So like, heavy intercessors are the slowest troops we can have. So, and you've got a whirlwind that can sit on the backfield anyway. So what are you thinking? Why are you thinking heavy intercessors are good? Two Scoops says, I was thinking in terms of your enemy having a harder time fully wiping out your unit, more likely to have half-dead units to revive on. Yeah, I mean, that's true, but also if the enemy are having a harder time wiping out your units, is it not just a case of... Is it not just a case of just keep fighting and win the game that way? DTM, I don't think you'll be running the Terminator list, and I don't think you'll be wasting the CP on them ever again, because Armor of Contempt will just make it that, like, that's pointless. I think he's running that grenade stratagem he ran last week, or 2 weeks ago, when I played as Black Templars, and the grenade stratagem seemed kind of broken, but I guess it's going to be weaker as well because of the... I'll get a better save against all the grenades, right? Heavy intercessors are toughness 5 and they sit on a backfield of jet are better. I mean, they do. They just don't do any damage. And they're slow. And they can't... If you lose, like... if you don't need them in the backfield, you can't just pay 1 CP like Guerrilla Tactics lets you do and bring them in any other board quadrant, you know? Alright, well maybe at some point I'll run a Sanguinary Priest now that we can heal things better. Maybe I'll run attack bikes and a Sanguinary Priest. I'll see. I'm definitely going to be... Personally, I'm going to be running a Captain Mephiston plus 1 other HQ. I think that's going to be my HQs for the next 3 months, and I think I'm going to run that to a tournament as well. Okay, it's a good list, Highland. It's hard for me to comment too much more than what I've already said because I've only played 1 game since Armor of Contempt. I'd love you guys to let me know how you get on using Armor of Contempt and that stuff. And remember, for tomorrow night's game, if you need to get a hold of us during the game, if it's an intense game and we miss something in the chat, remember that every channel member gets a free super chat. You just need to hit the super chat button at the bottom of the chat, and you can send a member-only super chat once per month for free. So please use that if you need to grab our attention or anything like that. Alright, let's go into list number 3 for today. What secondaries would I recommend with Highland's list? I mean, the fact he's got Landspeeder Storm and the Scout Squads make me think he's going for Deploy Teleport Homers and Relentless Assault, because Relentless Assault, you'll instantly have 2. You can bring in Landspeeder Storm and outflank in the enemy deployment zone. You can unload the Scouts. That's got you 2 units in the enemy's deployment zone, and then you can instantly start performing the Teleport Homer action. So potentially that gives him 8 victory points a turn. He only needs to do that, if he does that for 2 or 3 turns, if you Guerrilla Tactics another squad of Incursors in there to help, then potentially Relentless Assault and Teleport Homers can easily score, pretty close to maximum of secondary points. Or you can do Engage on all fronts, I guess, is what Highland's maybe thinking as well. I mean, that works too, yeah. You don't bring them for the shooting, you bring them for the tough object bodies wounds. I mean, I guess. I just don't know. Like in my backfield, I usually park the Whirlwind. I try and park it so it's like 9 inches away from the board edge, so it's very difficult for the enemy to deep strike in. I even try and sometimes, I'll leave like a squad of, I'll leave a squad of Incursors there as well. I kind of want to get a picture up. Do I have a good picture? Yeah, like this picture. Let me rotate this. I don't know why I need to rotate it, but just rotate it to the way I was playing it, right? So this was a tournament game. And this was actually the GT that I got to the top table in, and in the backfield here, I have like a squad of Incursors daisy chained. Right, you guys see this? So like, and I also have like a Contemptor here to basically cover. Like if you look at his firing arcs, he's firing like anywhere along here. Remember, a Contemptor is 45-inch range, so you can like cover anything that's coming out here, and you can pretty much cover this whole objective in front. My other Contemptor here was like covering sort of across this whole objective, and I'm obviously pushing this, and I've got, this is an Incursor sitting on this objective too. The rest of them are hidden behind this terrain as well. So like, I think the deployment zones on this one were these diagonal zones, right? So I have the Whirlwind here, and I have the Incursors here, and I have the Dreadnought here. It's like, what do I need the heavy intercessors for? Like, how is he deep striking? You can't deep strike anything in like this whole section. And then I mean, I have my other Dreadnoughts and my Librarian and everything pushing this way as well. So in this, and the reason it looks like I'm winning this game so much is this guy did have about 10 squads of Tempest Scions in reserve, right? But like, he literally can't bring any of them in on my side of the map, right? There's no space. The only thing that he was able to bring in on my side of the map was like he brought in a Vindicator Assassin like over here and made a charge into the Incursors. And he only got her in because he rolled like a low number on, like, you know how when you deep strike her, you roll a d6 and it's like 3 plus d6. He got like 7 inches. But, yeah, like, these OBSEC troops on the backfield were, I mean, I knew that he had a lot of deep strikes, so I just positioned a squad of Incursors with the Whirlwind. And the Whirlwind alone gives you a giant bubble of anti-deep strike, right? 9 inches all round. So, like, yeah, there's just literally nowhere you can bring it in. And so he is going to, I think what happened in this next turn was he literally had to deep strike his entire army up here, and he killed my squad of Sanguinary Guard. And that was it. So I still own friggin', you know, I still control 3. I still have great firing arcs. I was able to wipe out like a ton of them with the Dreadnoughts in the next turn. And obviously I won the game, right? Sorry, not the Vindicator Assassin, the Calidus Assassin. Yeah. I don't run. Sorry, I don't run Assassins very often. I actually don't own a Vindicator or a Calidus. I'm supposed to get a Vindicator. When do we get our Vindicator from When do we get our Vindicator from Warhammer Plus? Oh, that's when I'll get my one. Okay, let's go on to the last list for today. Has Warhammer Plus honestly been out a year at this point? Because I've still only watched 3 episodes of Angels of Death. That's all the content I've watched on Warhammer Plus in the first year. I really need to go and watch the next few. Okay. So this list is by Antonius Garden, and this, because the non-members lists are in a queue for a while, this might be kind of an older list. Let's see. Greetings, Blood Angels Commander. Me and my friends are having a 1,000-point tournament. Here's what I will mostly be fighting: 1,000 Suns and Death Guard. Alright, so this is just a 1,000-point list. Okay. So it's the 1,000-point list, and he starts with the Chaplain on the bike, very similar to the last list. Artisan of War, Mantra of Strength, Gift of Foresight, Adamantium Mantle, Master of Sanctity, Angel's Exemplar, Armorous Indomitus. So this actually probably makes a lot of sense in the smaller board size, in that you just have this super tanky Chaplain. He's got like 7 wounds, he's got a 6-up, he's got a 5-up Shrug, he's got Gift of Foresight, he's got Armor Indomitus. This guy's going to be very difficult to bring down 1,000 points. We then have a squad of Intercessors with Bolt Rifles, and yeah, I would switch these out for Incursors if you can. Find the 5 points and do it, it's totally worth it. You also, if you don't have the 5 points, it's worth mentioning the Sergeant can take a Chainsword for free, so there's no reason to not give him the Chainsword if you can find a model that has the Chainsword. We have Inceptor Squad with the Bolters, which is fine. We have the Outriders with, well, there's no options for Outriders. And I actually think Outriders are kind of a weaker pick. I'd much rather have Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. I think even with the changes to Armor of Contempt, I still think I prefer Vanguard Veterans with Storm Shields and Lightning Claws. I feel like probably the Outriders are maybe more of a survivable unit than the Vanguard Veterans now. The problem is if you lose a single Outrider, you can't score and engage on all fronts. They obviously can't perform actions if they require to be infantry. And Outriders fall off a hell of a lot after that initial round of combat. Chainswords are weaker now, arguably, and like into other Marines, they're going to be... Chainswords... Outriders already did no damage against other Marines, so now they're just going to literally bounce off any other Marine army. They're going to do no damage at all. I don't like Outriders. I think it's worth trying to swap them out for something better. We then have a second detachment. Why does it need to be 2 detachments here? Probably for... Oh, right, because he's got 3 fast attack. Well, yeah, if you drop the Outriders and replace them with an elite choice, either Vanguard Veterans or Sanguinary Guard, then you can basically make this a single patrol and save yourself 2 CP. So you'd start with 7 CP, which I think is the right call. Get a Captain on the bike who has Soul Warden, Storm Shield, and a Thunderhammer. The Storm Shield actually on the Captain on the bike is worthless now, so just switch out for an Infernal Pistol. I mean, I guess it's not worthless. You have a 2-up save with no Armor of Contempt, or you have 3 up save with Armor of Contempt, which are basically the same thing. So I think I would switch out the Storm Shield for an Infernal Pistol, and I'd use those 5 points to upgrade those Intercessors into Incursors we talked about earlier. You have a squad of Infiltrators, which I guess are good for anti-deep strike, and I guess if you're not running a Whirlwind, Infiltrators give you quite a large bubble of deep strike denial, so that's probably fine. Pretty secure for holding a backfield objective. You have a 5-man Death Company with 1 Thunderhammer. Again, I'd like to see more Thunderhammers, but in a 1,000-point game, it's probably okay. If you're going to scale this up to 2,000 points, I'd have some more. And then we've got a Suppressor squad. Suppressors are a bit of a tricky one. Highland Phoenix, thank you so much. Cheers, Blood Angels Commander. Glad we got Armor of Contempt. I still think Blood Angels need a campaign supplement with rules tweak and new strats to be consistently competitive. I do agree. I do think we need something. I think you were here last night, Highland, when we were talking, and yeah, you were here last night. I was pretty tired at the end of the stream last night, honestly, but I think what I said about... I think like our characters from 8th to 9th edition just kind of got copy and paste rules, and I would really like to see them... I'd really like to see someone revisit our character rules and make them decent. Because I really do think they were just copy and pasted very, very roughly, and they haven't... I guess in my opinion, they haven't been great. Okay, let me talk a little bit about suppressors, and I guess they're possibly okay in a 1,000-point game, but suppressors have problems in that you can't really move and shoot them because they have -1 to hit if you move and shoot. Their autocannons are kind of just generally kind of weak. Yeah, I think the thing I would be doing in this list is swapping out these Outriders for either Sanguinary Guard or Vanguard veterans, and making it into a one patrol detachment to get back 2 CP. Maybe a better choice here would be something like Eliminators with las fusils. I mean, the only reason I can see he's taking them is so that he's got some Overwatch denial. Autocannons go pew pew pew. I mean, it is 9 autocannon shots. I don't know. I tried to run suppressors a few times. I tried to run them and have them chill round about my captain, my chapter master, to get reroll 1s. Jake says he's got the assumption that this is this is what I've got. It probably is. If it's a 1,000-point list, you're probably using a lot of what you've got. If you want to be more competitive than Antonios, you need to lose Outriders and probably lose the suppressors as well, and probably take Incursors over Intercessors, and I think this list could benefit from Sanguinary Guard. I think it could benefit from Vanguard veterans, and yeah, maybe, you know, if you did swap these out for like a squad of Eliminators with the las fusils, 2 las fusils and the sergeant, so you can get the move, shoot, move, that saves you 15 points. You lose the Storm Shield and put an Infernal Pistol in, that saves you another 5 points. You lose Outriders, so you've got 170 points. You put 5 points on here, that leaves you 165 points. How much is Sanguinary Guard? 32 points per model. 5 times 32 is 5 times 32. 160, perfect. So then you can have a 5-man Sanguinary Guard squad, which you can get from 1 box of Sanguinary Guard. 1 guy can run either a Power Fist or Infernal Pistol. So I'd probably run 1 Infernal Pistol and like 3 swords, 2 axes, or 3 axes, 2 swords. And Sanguinary Guard are obviously going to be very strong with the new ignore ignore 1 AP. So that's probably what I do. Yes, you're not going to be able to deny Overwatch, but I don't know if denying Overwatch in a 1,000-point game is all that important. maybe you can, maybe you can run your captain or your chaplain next to the Sanguinary Guard and have like the chaplain do the charge, and then they have to decide if they want to overwatch the chaplain. And I mean, even the Sanguinary Guard can potentially tank up some overwatch now. In that, 2-up save, ignoring -1 AP can be pretty survivable. Yeah, in a 1,000-point game, you probably want to build a single patrol detachment. If you're having to build multiple patrol detachments and using up all your CP like that, then you probably just don't have optimized troop choices, right? I wonder if GW are ever going to drop Outriders back to 45 points. Seems like they're just being stubborn now. I think Outrider, the whole kit needs something, DTM. We need a multi-part Outrider kit, and we also need the ability to take them in squads of more than 3, because at the moment firstborn bikers just eclipse them. What's the optimal loadout on Vanguard veterans right now? I mean, probably a squad with like some lightning claws, some thunder hammers, some storm shields is probably still the optimal loadout. Power swords might not be bad now on Vanguard veterans, but the rerolls on the wounds on the lightning claws tend to provide value and I think storm shields are still going to be really important. I'm 45 euros for 3 Outriders. I don't think the points is the biggest issue. I mean, I guess when you put it like that, sure. But yeah, the points are pretty restrictive on the Outriders. I think the problem with Outriders is the white scars can get them to do like 2 damage on the chainswords, right? So like they can be really good for white scars, but they're just shit for everybody else. I guess this is a problem with Codex Space Marines. Like, I wonder if the way that they could fix that is that like certain units that are maybe really great, because like we just saw that recently with the Black Templars, right? Where like Redemptors went up in point costs for everybody because they're awesome for Black Templars because they get like transhuman and a 5-up invulnerable and a 5-up mortal wound shrug, so it makes sense for Black Templar players to like spam 3 Redemptors. I wonder if the way they fix that is like they should cost the unit. Yes, it's a Space Marine Codex unit, but the cost of it is baked into the codex that like. So if Black Templars are going to run a Redemptor, they're 195 points. If everyone else is going to run them, they're 185. Because otherwise, they're not bad for Deathwatch as well. Yeah, I know that they're not bad for Deathwatch too. But I guess that's my point. Is like if they're going to try and if they're going to try and nerf and balance stuff in the Space Marine Codex when you've got 10 chapters all using that stuff, that's going to make it really difficult to do, right? Jake, thank you so much for the £2 Yunari style points on the units. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of my point, right? Like, I just don't know how they do that. I guess a lot is gonna depend on this new Space Marine release that's coming this year that's rumored, right? Like, Turkey Blaster is saying a base Space Marine cost with a small adjusters based on chapters. Yeah, and I mean, I have made a video about like with a certain community member that you guys all know, that's going to talk about Primaris and some of the costs. We're going to actually dive into quite a bit of this. They could put chapter specific costs on Space Marines 2.0. I think that's the best way it could, like, I think that's one way that they could balance it. I think it might be important. But I don't know. I just, like, basically, by balancing it, or just by pointing it in the one book that everybody uses, you start making it restrictive to other Marine chapters. Now, I guess Armor of Contempt is an interesting one in that, like, everybody got that. But, I mean, I guess I can't complain too much. I'm really pleased that we got Armor of Contempt. I think it's going to change a lot of things. Maybe on the odd... Yeah, I don't think they would need to do it for every unit, Jake. You're 100% right. But yeah, I think that the odd unit would probably use... And then, I think if they did that way, then maybe it gives them more flexibility. But one of the other things that I really dislike is, how do you make Firstborn Death Company, or how do you make Primaris Death Company as picked, or as often picked as the Firstborn? And I think the answer is you can't, because let's say tomorrow, we've been crying out for jump packs for the Primaris Death Company, right? Let's say tomorrow they introduce jump packs on Primaris Death Company, right? And we're all super excited because we're like, right, we've been waiting, I don't know how long we've been waiting, 2 years, 3 years for Primaris Death Company jump packs. The thing is, no one would run Primaris Death Company because you can only put one Thunderhammer in the squad, right? And everyone's like, well, on like a 10-man squad of Death Company, you need 4 Thunderhammers. On a 5-man squad of Death Company, in a 2,000-point game, you need like 3 to 5 Thunderhammers. But if you can only have one Thunderhammer, then they could release the Primaris Death Company with jump packs, and just everyone's like, it's pointless. They don't have enough Thunderhammers. So I think there's other problems with Primaris that we could get into. Who knows what's happening in Space Marine Codex 2.0? Who knows? The only other thing to say as well is apparently when you get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, Games Workshop actually acknowledge that you exist. And last I checked, I was getting pretty close. I've been doing this for a while. Like 240 people. I'm getting pretty close. Tell your friends. Maybe we'll get up to 10,000 subscribers in the next couple of months. As someone who hasn't picked up Sanguinary Guard yet, is it worth waiting until Space Marine 2.0? I don't think so. It's so hard to tell. The fact that people have wanted Primaris Sanguinary Guard now for years. We might get them at some point. But I mean, I bought a box of Sanguinary Guard just like 2 months ago. I actually have 30 of them now. I think I counted, I think it was 27. So they're a great unit. They're even better than they were a week ago when the Armor of Contempt rule came out. I don't know. I can't say for sure. So I have them all, yeah, basically, because I believe there's only 25 in the company, right? And yeah, everybody's been wanting them. Everybody's expecting them to come with some sort of Primaris Dante release if that ever happens. I don't know when the next book in the Dante chapter or the Dante saga comes. That's maybe worth looking at, right? Like, but the problem is I don't know if they even like Dante novel. It might not even be on Wikipedia. Do you know that? Like the Dante novel apparently released in March 2017. Devastation of Baal release. I think it was like 2 years later. Devastation of Baal was November 2017. Darkness in the Blood. So it was like 3 years between the last two novels. So like, and we're going to need another novel to continue the story if Dante's ever going to go Primaris, because it was heavily hinted in this book, right? So like, I guess that book was 18 months ago. So if they stay on a 3-year cycle, it might be 18 months again before we see Primaris Sanguinary Guard. I'm not holding out hope for that happening soon. I don't know. I think if you don't have any Sanguinary Guard, you probably need to buy at least one box and just try them, because they were good before. They're even better now, I guess. Or maybe what you do is you buy some Assault Intercessors on some Sanguinary Guard and you convert up, because a lot of people have done that. They've made their own Primaris Sanguinary Guard, like conversions. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing, Tony. I really do appreciate it. Okay. Let me talk about. So, OBSEC, he's got the two troop choices. This is different as well because it's a 1,000-point list. Anti-horde, I guess he's got Inceptors, Outriders, Suppressors. I mean, that is probably good in a 1,000-point battle. Anti-monster and stuff, like, I don't think he has very much stuff here that will kill the monsters. He's got 1 Thunderhammer, 2 Thunderhammers, and I guess the Chaplain with Mantra of Strength, so it's like 3 damage or more weapons in this list, so that part of this list is pretty weak. And like someone said, it probably is just what he's got and he's trying stuff out. Mobility is pretty decent though. I'd say it's like an 8. And specialization, I don't think you need to worry too much about fight last and denies in 1,000 points. You definitely wasted some CP. You do have protection against mortal wounds. You do have a lack of 3 damage weapons. I'd say it's like a 6.5, maybe a 7. I'll be generous, it's a 7. Antonios definitely needs a few new models to add to his roster, I think. The header thinks they should go back to codexes for each chapter. I mean, I don't mind the supplements. I just think maybe the supplements need a bit more added to them. Caesar crossed the Rubicon like 2,000 years ago. Dante can do it in the 41st millennium. Yeah, I mean, well, Mephiston did it, right? And it's like when they first introduced the Rubicon Primaris in the lore, you know, like when Marnius Calgar did it, it was like supposed to be like super risky. Like, you know, I think actually in the lore, I didn't read the Ultramarines book because I'm not a traitor, but I think in the Ultramarines book about Marnius Calgar, he died, right? During the Rubicon, and they had to like restart his heart or something. Mephisto also died when doing it. Yeah, but considering these people quote-unquote died when doing it, has there actually been a story about someone failing to cross the Rubicon? Like, has anyone failed it? Because it seemed like it was supposed to be super risky, and then it's just like everyone that's doing it is crossing it just fine. Dante is falling apart physically. Yeah, I mean, Dante's pretty old now, right? Most of Calgar's Honor's Guard died, did they? Okay. So what did he get? Primaris? So non-named characters die, but the named characters are just fine. Thank you so much for subscribing, the real header. Appreciate it. So yeah, maybe it's probably just a matter of time. I just think the last couple of releases have been, for Blood Angels, the last couple of releases have not been on point, aka Death Company Intercessors, and then basically like an assault version of them with not good weapon options. So, based on that, I'd probably say, yeah, buy Sanguinary Guard, because even if they do release some Primaris jump units, the options are probably going to be limited. They're not going to synergize, or they're not going to be as good as we want them to be. And I don't know why they're doing that. And I actually hate it. So, do you think the game could use less damage? I'm not overly worried about damage. I mean, I just think Space Marines need to get the same sort of D3+3 treatment that all the other races apparently have had. Because it seems like most of the other races that have had their codex in the last 6 months, D6 damage. The only weapon I can think in the last... When did Drukhari's codex came out? Like, maybe a little bit more than 6 months ago, but I think like the last weapon I can think that came out that was like D6 damage was like the Drukhari blasters. I feel like everything since then, and even some stuff before then, like, was all D3+3. Cognus Las cannons, Entropy cannons, Dark Lances, Savlo launchers. It's all D3+3. Drukhari seemed pretty happy. Yeah, I mean, I think the Drukhari book is strong even though blasters are D6. But yeah, I would love to see Marines get this D3+3 treatment to their weapons. Yes, maybe we have to take some penalties to have that, like maybe some weapons need shorter ranges, or maybe some weapons need less strength, but I think D3+3 would help Marines out a whole lot. Anyway, it's getting late, guys, and I have work in the morning. I gotta get packed up to play tomorrow night as well. So I will be live at 7:30 tomorrow night, so precisely like 4 hours earlier than we are now. We are playing Death Guard. We are playing against 3 Plagueburst crawlers. So I'm really interested to see one. I mean, my regular guys will get a save against entropy cannons now, right? Because before we couldn't get saves against them because they were -4. I'll also get a pretty good save against the mortars before. I guess my regular guys would be saving on those mortars on like 5s. Now I think if I'm in cover, I'll save on the mortars at 2s, I want to say. Because like, if I have an Incursor in cover, they're normally in a 3-up save, so save on a 2-up, is -2 from the plague. I forget what they're called, the Plagueburst Crawler mortars. Think. I'm just going to Google it, or because I Plagueburst. What are the mortars called again? Oh, the Plagueburst mortar, obviously. So, if I have an Incursor in cover, who would save on a 3, cover gives them a 2-up save. So before, when I was getting shot with these, and these wound super reliably because they're plague weapons and their toughness, their strength 8, so they wound on 2s, rerolling 1s. So basically every hit is basically almost like an auto wound. So before, I'll be saving on 4s and everything as a dead Marine. Now, if that's in cover, if I'm not in cover, I'm saving on 5s and as a dead Marine. If I'm in cover now, I think I'm saving on 2s, because I would save on 3s, cover would make it a 2, it would be -2, it goes to a 4, but I get to ignore 1 AP, so it goes back to 3, and because he can't see me because it's indirect, I get another +1, so I save on 2s. So, Plagueburst Crawler's mortars have been, I mean, you know, people, I think that's going to be pretty, I think the mortars are going to be chip damage at best. Like, each mortar is going to maybe kill 1 Marine, and I might even CP one of those saves. If it's a 2-up save, it might make sense to just pay a CP to keep an Incursor alive. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be really interesting to see how effective Plagueburst or Plagueburst crawlers are in general, I guess. But obviously he's Death Guard, so all my weapons will do less damage against him, so that will come into it as well. Crawlers are out for the engines, I think, and I think the list that I'm fighting also has a bunch of mythic blight haulers. God damn it, the Death Guard stuff. It's late. And I'm tired. Mythic blight haulers. Yeah, I was thinking I was wrong. I think this list also has a bunch of these in it. So it's quite a vehicle heavy list. And the Death Guard vehicles are difficult to kill. T8, -1 damage, I guess armor of contempt, 3-up, 5-up. My toughness is going to drop as well, yeah. So yeah, tune in tomorrow night. We'll see how we do against Death Guard. Typically, I think Blood Angels have the edge against Death Guard because we can use our speed against them. So we'll see. We'll see. The change to Plagueburst Crawlers may make a huge difference. But okay, alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you to my new member and also the couple of folk that threw in super chats. They are really appreciated. I did hit my membership goal for April with, I guess, about a week to spare. So thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. I will catch you guys tomorrow night. And yeah, I'm sure I'll see you guys in the Discord this week as well. So talk to you in a bit. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.